episode 128. PR Essential Summit Affiliate Influencer Marketing. What you need to consider.
Welcome to the PR Playbook Podcast, the only podcast giving you actionable skills and advice you need to execute a strategic PR program. Warning: what you hear next may lead to brand awareness and increased sales and customer exposure. Now here's your host, Rinjini Joshua.
Hi guys, we're back. Episode 128. So in this episode, we are talking with Cody Wittick from Kynship. And Kynship is an influencer marketing partner that we use. They have a really interesting and unique way of doing influencer marketing. They're all unpaid marketing spots. It's more like collaboration. I would say influencer collaboration. So check out this episode and listen in on how Kynship does affiliate influencer collaboration, and hope you enjoy. Hello, this is Ranjini Joshua. I am the CEO and founder of the Silver Telegram. Today, here in this session, we're going to be talking about affiliate and influencer marketing and what you need to consider. We have an intruder here. Okay, there we go. And so today, we're going to talk about affiliate influencer marketing. We have Megan Alba, account director with the Silver Telegram, and Cody Wittick, the co-CEO of Kynship. Is that correct?
Correct. You nailed it.
Awesome. So Cody, can you do like a quick intro of yourself and Kynship and what you guys do?
We're the best influencer marketing agency in the world.
Awesome.
There you go. We serve D2C e-commerce brands through influencer seeding campaigns to leverage influencer content on paid social. That's probably the quick synopsis.
Quick synopsis, but very wordy. We're very
okay.
What is it called? Not wordy.
No one knew what I said.
No one knew what you.
Okay, great.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say we get a lot of, like, when we say influencer seeding, we still get a lot of, well, what is that? But you guys kind of created that category. You created that niche yourselves, did you not?
I'd like to think so.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, I know that there are other people who are doing it, but the way that you describe it and the way you put it together, I think you guys are kind of stand out when it comes to that.
We are the controversial ones, that's for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the premise goes around paid and earned social media. And I think that's a big question that a lot of people have, especially startups, like you said, D2C startups that are launching new products. They want to get in front of influencers. They want to pay them. And they come to us and they're like, well, how much is it? And they're all concerned. So I would love to get a little bit of an understanding of how you see the influencer landscape and what that like difference is between earned and paid influencers, because I don't know that people really, well, they still don't understand the space. So just kind of defining that a little more.
I think it's interesting the way that you phrase it between earned and paid. I mean, if you go on the sense of like paid media versus like earned media value, then I wouldn't focus on anything where I would have to actually pay an influencer. Like, I think it's helpful to actually know based on your revenue tier what you should be budgeting for influencer marketing. And if you're under 1 million, you should not be setting aside budget to pay influencers. And like when I say under 1 million annual revenue. And then as you go up, like there's certain things. So like foundationally, I would just start by getting your product out there and not asking for anything in return. That's so to bring up seeding, that's what it is. Yep. You're sending out free product without asking for anything in return. And depending on your COGS, like that's one of the immediate questions is like, well, okay, I sell saunas, Cody. I can't seed my product. Of course, like you're not going to be seeding like hundreds of saunas out. But for the everyday run of the mill brand where your COGS are under $100, under $150, I think like there's a lot of leg room where that becomes your budget for paying for influencers. But you're not actually contracting them to oblige and like pay for a review. So that's where that earned media value of like, if they do decide to post, you're getting that for free or for the COGS of your product. The paid media is like being able to repurpose that content in ads. There's a lot that goes into that. I mean, there's so many steps that are going high level, but yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to comment on before this landscaper came over here is that, like it's a very, very relative to like media reviews, like how we do product reviews with media. It's like we send it out. There's no guarantee that they're going to do anything unless they like it, right? And so why should the bar for influencers be any different than that? And I think there's like now, as the digital age like shifts the media landscape, there's now become a blur between influencer and editorial, or influencer and media. And so
Yeah.
I think this is a really interesting dynamic in this very interesting world that you guys play in, that is very different from media relations, is just like finding people who have any kind of like, certain levels of influence and how they're leveraging that influence, and what the best way for brands that are, like you said, under 1 million in revenue or even over 1 million in revenue, what is the best method for them to really identify influencers that are going to impact their business model or their business or their sales? Like, how do you guys, I know you have like a little methodology of how you kind of find those, like, how do you identify what influencers are really going to be doing that? Because obviously people come to us, oh, can you get me like, Joe Rogan or Kim Kardashian or whoever? You're like, no, I can't get that. But maybe that's not really even the answer, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a lot of just short-term thinking and just wanting to like get to Kim K so that their business can explode overnight. And it's just like the easy thinking, even though it doesn't necessarily work like that. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. I think when it comes to identifying influencers, it's just like, who would you be proud to have your product represent your product? And stop thinking about getting lost in the sauce of follower count. So like macro or celebrity talent. But if you go to the 50,000 follower count micro influencer and you look at their content and you see what they post about qualitatively, quantitatively, they're a fit, then yeah, you should offer them the product. Like, would I be proud if they posted about you? If they bought the product and actually posted, that's how you should think about it. So you brought up like, why would I pay? Like, why should the editorials be motivated by finances to like put them in the blog or put them in the editorial? Well, I would say even worse, like you should compare it to your customer experience. You can't pay influencers for reviews, or you can't pay customers for reviews. It's illegal. But yeah, we think it's different with influencers. Like, I can just pay for this advocacy. And you wonder why we have an inauthentic marketplace. And that's the perception of influencer marketing. That's because the system is producing that result, which is like that pay for posts. I've never heard of you before, but you're paying me 10 grand. So money talks and I'll post about you. But it's clearly seen in the content that they produce. Now I'm talking about like video content specifically, because anybody can post an image and write a caption and try to convince somebody, but it comes across. And I think people know, the consumers know.
I like what you said at the beginning of this conversation when you said that's the easy way of thinking. Let me get to the Kim K's, let me get to the Joe Rogans, let me get to the people with millions and millions of influencers. And I think, early on, I know when I started working with TST, we were doing some individual outreach, that was 5 or 6 years ago, when you would reach out to the influencer and see how much they would pay or how much, it would cost, or if you could get something in for free. And so many of them, we realized really quickly as they started growing, those rates went up. And it was literally just, you're basically paying for a video, you're paying for an ad, and you're going from someone with $25,000 or 25,000 followers who's fairly new and is maybe charging 500 or 600 to millions of followers. And I think we had one person that we reached out to that said, oh, it's $12,000 for like 60 seconds. No. It was, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I think, and it may have been more than that. We've seen way more than that numbers out there. And so I think that when you talk influencer seeding, some people still think, well, I'm putting out a lot of product without a guarantee. Like, why shouldn't I just pay for that? But I don't think they understand how the influencer landscape has changed in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, I'm going to ship out products without a guarantee, but they think paying for an influencer is a guarantee.
Right. And it's
a lot more expensive.
Right. Yeah. They're going to write something and you're going to get one influencer versus potentially
hundreds.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, so, it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I saw this wild TikTok video the other day, and I posted like I don't even know what you call it, mashup of like me just like kind of in shot listening to
Remix.
this. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And it was this influencer that she had basically just said like how she started basically setting her own rates. And she has like 250,000 on Instagram. I think she has quite a lot more on TikTok. And she was describing how when she first started doing it, she was describing how, I didn't know what I was doing. So I just kind of said like $500. And like brands were like, oh yeah. I'll for sure do it. And then she was like, the next brand, she was like, okay, a couple grand. And they're like, still, they think it's low, like the brands. And then she went to the next brand and she was like, well, these previous two brands pay me 25. I'll do it for 20. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. And basically my point in bringing this up is just like, this is literally commonplace of how influencers are setting their own rates.
Just random.
It's just complete like, well, let's just see if this works. And this is why we have like Wild Wild West.
Well, and I think that's why, like, it's an unregulated category, right? It's not advertising.
There is no standard.
So it's just, it's rough.
The benchmark becomes whatever they got paid last time. So now when she gets paid 20K, she's not taking lower than 20K for the next. I mean, I don't know the deliverables. She doesn't say that, but it's probably not much. So like, and you guys bring up Joe Rogan. I'll tell you how to get to Joe Rogan. One of our clients, they seeded product to an influencer that Joe Rogan happened to be following, and then bought the product and then mentioned our client on his podcast 4 times completely for free.
Wow.
And so Joe Rogan talks about stuff that he loves. He doesn't care. Like he's not talking like, oh, I have ownership or I have equity or I'm sponsored by this. Like they're a sponsor of the show. He's just like, yo, I followed Ben Patrick. He was doing stuff on knees over toes and I picked up monkey feet. And he talks about it. That's
and I
all
think
free.
that's the other thing, right? About targeting the right people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So I don't remember the question now. I'm just kind of rambling. So sorry.
No, I think
Megan.
We're talking about how how the landscape has just shifted in the last 5 years. And a lot of it is, like you said, the wild, wild west of influencer payment.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that happens with every new platform that's introduced? Like 5 years ago, we weren't TikToking around. So like, when TikTok comes around, is that now a new learning curve on charging for influencers?
Well, I think the best thing, in my opinion, that TikTok has done is put the focus on the content itself.
Yeah.
So it's not, oh, I went on The Bachelor and I got thousands of followers now. And that's basically how I just gained my audience, was because I went on the show. But it's rewarded based on the content that you produce and views and all these different things. And that's how you actually gain following. That's how you gain rewards, really. So I think you do have to adjust. I mean, if you're wanting to get like started in influencer marketing for people listening, TikTok Creator Marketplace, completely free tool created by TikTok, has TikTok influencers. You can create campaigns, you can invite them, you can set the price point as free product. And it's a hand-raised model. So people just invite themselves, basically. They get invited and they say yes or no. So it's not exactly product seeding, but it is a way of like, we use it and we still say no strings attached. You don't even have to post, but we would just love to get you the product. But it's just an easy way. So like, don't get lost in, there's a million influencer tools for discovery. You do not need to be paying for the under 1 million. Again, do not be pay for these tools and platforms. Like that's how you can waste a lot of money as well. Unless you're working with like 100 plus influencers, which I doubt many of you are. I want to entertain a tool like that. So Google Sheets can take you a long way.
So that's actually a good segue into the next question I had, which is, what is the best way to reach out to a potential influencer or product affiliate? I mean, do you slide into their DMs? Do you send them a formal email? What do you do?
I mean, DMs, you're only going to get so far just because privacy restrictions. I think it's a great follow-up. Most of these influencers are listing their email or their contact info on their profile so you can get to them. So I would just use a tool where you can scale email, GMass, mail media, or there's all the Instantly, there's all these different tools you can use on on
Is
email
it having
outreach.
a manager a red flag? We should stay away.
No, not necessarily, because I mean, someone with 10,000 followers these days could have a manager.
Yeah.
God knows why. I don't know, but I still, even when I was working internally at a brand and at Kalo, we started everything with product seeding and we did a lot of macro work too.
Uh-huh.
So I was dealing with agents all the time. I still said, we're not going to work with your client unless we know for sure that they actually love the product. So
Right.
you can either have a future deal or no deal at all. And agents are obviously motivated by deals. So now it's just something to know, like if they do have an agent or a manager, that their rates are going to be hiked up just because they do have representation. So
Yeah, I mean, I found it really challenging to work with some of the managers, and it feels like almost like a complete roadblock. Like some of them, and maybe it's just because of the type of influencer that we were reaching out to at that time or whoever it was, but sometimes it's almost like a full stop. It's like as soon as you hit the manager, you're not getting anywhere past them if you're not talking dollars. And so in that frame of reference, if there's someone I really wanted to have, like what does that conversation look like? What should we be talking about if you're willing to pay for a particular influencer because they're like the perfect match, let's say?
So like you just want to go straight into negotiation?
I mean, if there's no other way to get into that, or is there other loopholes that we can kind of take to
I just
navigate?
I mean, depending on the category, I just don't know if that person's individually worth it as much as you
Yeah.
do. If it's really going to be a pain point to like, they're never going to allow their client to get the product and say like they like it or not. And it's just going to be a bad relationship. Because I think right there, it's kind of proof of this is going to be tough. Like this relationship isn't going to materialize type thing. I think that's one of the pros of product seeding is you can get the product into their hands. They give you product feedback. Maybe they post, maybe they ask for more. They're excited about it. Now there's like a mutually beneficial relationship where I'm excited about you, you're excited about me. Let's go on a second date,
Yeah.
type thing. And like, let's keep holding hands down the line. And maybe that does materialize into like a paying relationship.
paid
And it probably
relationship.
should. You're just never going to know. It's always going to be back in mind if it is a paid relationship right off the jump. So like, yeah, for the 50,000 follower that has an agent that's playing you hardball, like I would just move on. There's so many other options.
There's lots of other fish in the sea, folks.
There you go. Exactly.
Well, I mean,
Go
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, you bring up a good point about, you were just saying like, let's go on a second date. Like here's your product or here's product. Tell me what you think about it. Oh, you like it. Let's talk some more. And I think, Ranjini, as far as our work with influencers goes, the best ones we've had, the best relationships that we've had with influencers has been, hey, will you take a look at this product and give me honest feedback? Oh, you like it? Let's talk about what happens next. But the fact of the matter is that is not a conversation that happens. Like you don't go from seeding the product to here's a fantastic review video in 2 weeks. And so it's really important to manage those expectations with a client who's sending those out, because sometimes they're like, well, why is it taking so long? And the reality is it's just like pitching or any other type of media relationship. You've got to build out that relationship. And sometimes we found sometimes it takes 3 months and sometimes it's a year before we get the review. So I'm curious, like, what is the average time frame that you're seeing? And what are some tips to help manage those expectations when it comes to these types of influencer relationships?
Well, a little bit is unfair just because we're an agency. Like the speed and scale which we can work is obviously different. But I would say like, I mean, it's going to vary. I think the point that you're raising is these are human beings, guys. This isn't a Facebook dashboard or your Klaviyo account where you can just click a few buttons and you have an email sent or an ad up. So some of the founders need to take a little breath on expectations, like you're saying. But I mean, yeah, we see influencers post seeding them products within the first 3 days, and they'll post just because like there is like a lot of reciprocity that's kind of taking place where they were like, but they generally interacted with the product upon unboxing. They tasted it, they put it on their face, they wore it, etc. And then they're like, man, I really like this. I'm going to throw up a story or I'm going to take a TikTok video, like that type of thing. But yeah, it can be delayed too. Like what you're saying with like several months because this influencer's mom died and like I mean, like these people have lives. Like
Yeah.
they're not just sitting around being like, I can't wait for XYZ brand to like send me product, and I'm just gonna post about it right away.
I think that's
Um,
like the weird thing about this industry, PR, marketing, social media, that people like just think that people are waiting around to like do stuff. I don't think that I mean, I could be wrong. And I think there's different pressures in different industries, but in our industry particularly, it's like, why isn't it happening right now?
mhm.
And so there's so much pressure for things to be so immediate because the sales cycle is so immediate. People have such low attention spans. And so
Yep.
we get that brunt of that,
Mhm.
and it's like, why aren't they posting yesterday? You're like,
Yeah.
they just got it yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
And I
very
think
true.
too, it definitely depends on the type of product, and we're try to manage those expectations, I think, as well.
Mhm.
If you have, like you said, a type of food or something that you can taste quickly versus something that's more technical oriented. We did speakers earlier this year. Yeah, they're going to want to test out the speaker in different conditions and, different volumes, different types of music. And they're
Yeah.
probably not just going to sit for 8 hours straight one day and,
And listen.
Yeah. It's going to take a while. So it's, yeah, a lot of that is just managing expectations. So I love that what you're saying is, yeah, if it's the right kind of product, you can get it in 3 days, but also don't expect everybody to post within
Yeah.
3 and probably
Yeah.
also don't,
Sometimes
yeah,
sometimes that takes a follow-up.
yeah, it takes a follow-up. And I'm guessing it probably doesn't always look the way that you would initially expect. Like that's the beauty of seeding is they're posting organically. So it may not look or sound like what you initially expected a TikTok to
Yeah.
look
We're
like.
tapping into them. I mean, that's where like where most people go wrong is identification. They're identifying the wrong influencers, and then every step after that is now bad or low performance. So if you identify the wrong influencers, then you see them.
You're just going downhill.
Yeah. So our identification process, like you should be identifying great video content creators. So more than likely, when you put the product in their hands and allow them to be the creative director, well, guess what you get back? Great video content.
Amazing video. Yeah.
So that's just kind of like you gotta have the destination in mind, and then you gotta start in the right direction. So
We have a question here that I think is relevant to this conversation already. I mean, obviously. So one of the questions is that if you have limited product, and I only ask this because we've had this question. If you have limited product, let's say you have, just 20 to 30 pieces or something where you don't have a high volume of product that you can set out because you are a startup, you're starting, you're low ARR, whatever the case may be. How do you start? Like, what do you think is the best step to kind of get started? And obviously, I think targeting the right people is the number one step.
yeah,
But what do you think? I mean, I think you could still do a pretty successful influencer program with 20, 30 influencers.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so benchmarks to keep in mind, like out of your influencer outreach, you should expect a minimum of 20% to say yes to the product. If you're offering them the product, no strings attached. So of 100 people, that's 20 people. If you have 20 SKUs set aside, that's 20 products.
Perfect.
set
Yeah.
up. And
It's
then
like the whole business development thing. Like you have to contact this many people to get this many responses, right?
yeah. So the legwork is you got to identify 100 people. But guys, you can go on Instagram right now. Go to one. I bet all of them have one influencer in mind. You could go to that influencer's profile and hit the plus button, and it's algorithm picked people that are all posting similar things.
Mm-hmm.
You could get 100 people in a day if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
In a week, you could delegate that to your high school intern or your young cousin or whatever it is, like pretty easily, and then you can filter through later and then just start outreaching. So those are the benchmarks, like 20% opt-in to get products, you get addresses. And then out of those 20 people, you should expect at least 6 to post. So that's 30%.
So I think that's another expectation management thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
What is the outcome and output that you're going to get? And then how can you use that output? I think one thing that you guys do and that I appreciate about how you guys work is that you go back and you say, hey, can we license this content from you and use it for all these other purposes, advertising and building credibility, marketing campaigns, any other uses. So I think that's a big thing that some people miss is that, yes, you're giving people the things for free, but then you're like taking that content as a credibility piece, which I think is huge when it comes to brand visibility, right?
Yeah, UGC is very powerful. This is UGC created by influencers. They're posting on their own social feeds, which if you go to like the UGC platforms of the world, you're not getting that. So you're getting that for the price of your product. You're getting the word of mouth from that. You're getting brand awareness from that. You're getting the people that see that story and go purchase it on Amazon. Like now, is all that trackable? It's not tickling your ears in that way, but I know for sure it's happening. Like it happens.
Right.
Just because you, the consumer, do it yourself. And yeah, so in addition, wherever you're winning in terms of like paid acquisition for all of our clients, like that's Meta ads and TikTok ads, primarily Meta, then repurpose the content there. But you got to get content rights. So like you're acquiring the content and then you're repurposing it in places where you can actually optimize for conversion. Now, like we put that question in front of influencers as a yes or no question. You can say yes or no. Because we started the relationship the right way, we see a like overwhelming majority just say yes for free. And then we use that content. We're very explicitly clear how we want to use the content. And it's just another way, a vehicle, a mechanism to like judge success on this particular influencer. Did their content perform in paid media? Yes or no? But maybe it didn't, but you really like the content. You want to give it another shot, or like you like them as a content creator and you want them to create content that is winning.
Yeah.
That's another mechanism. So yeah.
I mean, you're basically tapping into a bunch of creative resources for a very, very low overhead. And I think if you can't do 20 pieces at this point, then maybe you're just not ready for influencer relations, right? Like if you have such a minimal amount of
product
inventory, then it's just not time for you yet, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You definitely need like the basic things set up, I would say.
Yeah.
Like if your website isn't up live, if you don't have social handles, like you probably should just leave this webinar at this point.
Yes.
Sorry for takeaway listeners, kicking them out.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, see you later.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely. That's same with PR. I think that's what we tell people. It's like, if you don't have your messaging, if you don't know what kind of messages you want to convey, then you can't really start PR either. And it would be a waste of our time and your time to even try to get into a conversation about a PR program when you don't know the messages, you don't know the call to actions, you don't know like how you want people to see your brand. So I think that is actually very important and maybe seems very like elementary, but yeah, have a website, have it like if you're launching a product, but it isn't live. So I guess that would be the other question. And I don't know what kind of experience you have with crowdfunding, because we talk to a lot of people who want to crowdfund. I would not recommend leveraging influencer relations for crowdfunding, but I don't know if you've ever had someone try to do that.
Yeah. Again, I'll just go back to what you just brought up. Like, do you have the foundational things set up, and are you able to take advantage of an influencer posting about you on the back end?
Right.
Because if a consumer and I go to the website and then I can't purchase anything,
it's like a waste of time.
Yeah. So like that side of things, and then also just even running ads. So, I mean, we work with startups all the time that primarily usually have funding just because they can afford us as an agency, but they have those foundational things set up. So, or they're in the process of like, by the time we get influencer content posting, like we're going to be live. So we're timing it that way.
So it's, I think, what would you say is some of the kind of like extreme basics that people like brands need to really implement before they start? I mean, obviously you mentioned the website, socials, they got to have product, but what other things can they offer or ask for from influencers when they're starting a program like this? Like, can they be specific in their ask, or are you guys just dealing with like completely organic post?
Yeah. Our opinion is to tap in like from a macro level. It's just let the creator be the creator. So lean in, but if you're going to follow our no strings attached methodology, then it's a very fine line to start being like, hey, when you post, say these things. Like it just, it's like, I thought you said there was no post required, but you can like, I don't know. We can kind of play the fine line of like trying to show them example content but yeah, I would just view it more as like a follow-up. I would try to keep it simple. Simple is better at the beginning. Just try to get your product out there, get product feedback, get some organic awareness, get some organic content and try to repurpose those paid media. UGC is very powerful, and these are that these are actual users at the end of the day.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry. You just mentioned content feedback. And one of the questions I had, because we have a client and we've had clients before kind of express this, is like sometimes they want to they're like, yeah, I want to reach out to influencers to get them to try the beta.
Hmm.
How do you feel about that? And it's such a weird thing because you're kind of asking them for a serious favor, right? Like this is an early product. Like, oh, can you test the beta and give us your feedback? What do you feel about like that kind of relationship building, I guess?
Depends what it is.
Right.
That's all I would say is like
Yeah.
it probably does vary. Like if it's a digital product that you just want them to try and it's a free trial, you're just not going to see, like, you're going to have to really reach out to a lot of different people to get some people to try it.
Mm.
I don't know. I would just put your mind in the mind of the influencer if you're outreach from the brand. Like I know you think your brand is like the best thing since sliced bread, but they've never heard of you before. So why are they going to take the time to try out your beta?
Yeah.
It better be pretty convincing or it's like this revolutionary thing. But I don't think there's not to answer your question explicitly, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with it because you can't start the relationship that way. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah. But if it's food beta and it's like, this is the new gummy to try and it tastes terrible, then you kind of just started the relationship pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um,
But at
yeah.
least you got honest feedback. Maybe
That is true.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So if everyone comes back and says like, I can't even finish this, I want to throw up.
Mhm.
That's good feedback.
So this was originally called affiliate and influencer marketing. So I'm going to ask the question that we have here about offering affiliate, basically a discount code for followers or some kind of affiliate link. Is it worth doing that even if there's no strings attached? Do you think that incentivizes some of the influencers to kind of participate or not participate, or do they care, or like are they really, really so authentic that they can't do that?
Yeah. Again, I would just say if you're offering them no strings attached in the very beginning, and then you say, hey, like if you do decide to post, here's a discount for your followers, they're not getting any of that. Like it's not like they're set up as affiliate where they're getting commission off that. So for me, I just don't think it's like necessarily motivating. It's just a kind of a back end way for you to just try to track what they do. I mean, look, with all
Does
this
it not
stuff, like,
does it not seem like an like incentive for their followers? I mean, I don't know why this would work, but now that I'm thinking about it, how I'm going to say it, but like, maybe the brand feels like, oh, this is a way to engage your audience. You can offer them a code. Unless they're getting a kickback, it really doesn't matter, right?
yeah, I think the way I would play it, and I'm just totally thinking off the cuff, is like, I would say if any of your followers happen to ask for a discount code because they express interest, like I'm happy to send you one, but don't give them one.
Right.
So let them come back to you and ask for it.
Yeah, because if they want it, they'll ask for it. I mean, I believe that for sure. And I think even that's the methodology of the way we're talking about organic influencers. Maybe paid influencers probably ask for that. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, they would. And I mean, if you're going to pay an influencer, I would never do it without a discount code or some ways that.
Oh yeah, some way to track. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the other thing, like you said, these organic relationships can turn into paid relationships later, and then you can have like that conversation.
For sure.
I think that we're just talking about the entry point, right?
People are too impatient. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We do have one client that I really like the way that they worked with that. They wait until they see the review, and if they really like the review, or say, for example, if it's towards a type of customer that they're really trying to target, then they go back in and they're like, hey, do you want to join our affiliate network? We'll be happy to get you set up. So, I think that's something that particular client does really well, is building out that relationship long term. And they do see the benefits of it, of being patient. So I think you're right. That's something that not many clients, especially first starting out in influencer relations, don't understand that. They just want to kind of throw the whole package out there to begin with.
Yep.
And that is not how you build a long-term relationship. And the benefit of that is that particular client often gets mentioned in other articles down the road because they've built that organic relationship. So they send one product out, but they get 4 or 5 mentions
Yeah.
on the site over the course of a year because of the way they built that out.
Just like you mentioned with that Joe Rogan situation, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's also something to be said about like using this UGC on your website, all these different things. Like,
yeah.
there are just multiple places where you can use this.
So I think we're kind of coming close to time here. So I think we went over like a lot of like kind of the main things about influencer marketing as far as it comes from like the more organic perspective. And I love that you just say don't pay for influencers if you're under 1 million, because like I 100% believe that's true, but it's hard to convince people when they think that's going to be like their golden ticket to revenue. Anything else, any like best practices or anything that like you want to leave people with of, getting started with influencer marketing and like just covering a base so that, I think a lot of times it's educating them on things they might not know.
I think that is some of the best advice that I shared at the beginning. Just don't entertain paying influencers right now.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you the COGS of your product is a lot cheaper.
Mm-hmm. When is it worth paying an influencer then?
Well, I would say that when you get above 1 million, start thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just, I think there's certain channels and vehicles that are worth paying for, like YouTube, but YouTube's very expensive. So I would never say for under $1 million brand to do that. I think TikTok, you can get away with very low, under $100 paying for content type thing. But ideally, when is it worth paying an influencer? When they've already proven out that they love the product, they've posted about it, maybe organically, they've given you feedback, you onboard them onto affiliate program, maybe you get them on a monthly UGC contract. That's that next tier. You've analyzed their performance in paid media.
Yeah.
Did they drive conversions?
It goes back to that relationship that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Well, then this is a conversation about relationship building.
Yeah.
Learn
That's
how to
right.
have a relationship. Well, thank you so much, Cody. Thank you, Megan. I think there's a lot of great takeaways to this, and I look forward to kind of posting this everywhere so that everybody can hear like straight from Cody's mouth. Don't pay influencers.
Right.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.